I want to tell you something I have never said publicly. There was a period in my life where I knew everything I was supposed to do. I had the tools, I had the knowledge, I had been studying the mind for years. I had been coaching others through the hardest time. I had been writing about transformation. And then life broke me open. An accident, a broken foot, 9 months in bed, financial collapse, my husband's health falling apart, my husband's business falling apart, depression, suicidal thoughts, panic attacks, and so much more. And it was in these dark moments I realized something that shook me. Knowing is not enough. What actually saved me was not my knowledge. It was one moment of self-leadership. And today, I want to talk about that. Most of us are waiting to feel ready, waiting to feel confident, waiting for the right moment, the right circumstances, the right energy. And we call this waiting for motivation. But the truth about motivation that nobody tells you is that motivation is a feeling. And like all other feelings, it is unreliable. Feelings are unreliable. They shift with your sleep, your mood, the weather outside your window, the last conversation that you had. So if you build your life on motivation, you are building your life on something that can disappear overnight. And how do I know that? I know that because I have lived it. There were days when my life was not working. I would not feel like waking up also. My motivation was zero. I did not have motivation available to me. Motivation did not help me get out of that phase. What helped me was a choice that I made. A quiet, stubborn, small choice that I made. The choice to keep going. And that is what is called self-leadership. Self-leadership is something that is available to you even on your worst days. Self-leadership is not a dramatic thing. It does not look like waking up at 5 a.m. every morning. It does not look like never struggling, never doubting. It does not look like having it all figured out. Self-leadership looks like this. You are exhausted. Everything feels heavy. You don't feel like doing the one thing you said that you would do. And you do it anyways, not perfectly, not with full energy, but you do it. Now, this small act of keeping a promise that you made to yourself when you least feel like it, this is something that forms the foundation of self-leadership. It is formed in tiny moments, in small consistent steps. One kept promise at a time, one uncomfortable action at a time. You promised yourself that you will take a pause before you react, and you actually take a pause before giving a response. You promised yourself that you will form healthy boundaries, and you actually respect your boundaries. You promised yourself that you will forgive yourself on days that don't go as planned, and you actually forgive yourself. You promised yourself that you will rest when you need it without any guilt, and you actually rest without any guilt. Now, these are not small things. These are things that build a life. Here is something I want to be honest about. In my years of coaching, the most common thing that I have seen is this. There are people who know everything about themselves, yet they are not able to change themselves. They know where and why they self-sabotage. They know all their fears, where their fears are coming from, what their fears are. They know their patterns. They know what they need to do, yet they are not able to change themselves. You know why? Because they choose not to do anything about all the knowledge that they have about themselves. You know something about yourself, but you are living something else. This gap between knowing and living is where all the growth stops. I have been there. I have lived in that gap myself. There was a time when I was going through so much pain, so much agony, mentally, emotionally, and I chose to stay a victim for a very long time. I knew everything about resilience. I had taught it to thousands of people, and here I was choosing not to do what I knew. Knowledge becomes transformation only when you live it. When you do what you know, that is when transformation happens. Not when you talk about it, not when you understand it, but when you actually do it in the middle of real life with all its mess, its chaos, and inconvenience. This clubbing of knowing what to do and doing what you know is called integration, and that is where all the transformation, all the change begins. So let's now talk about something that quietly destroys growth: comparison. You compare your chapter 2 with someone else's chapter 20. You compare your Monday mornings with someone else's highlight reel. You compare your private struggles with someone else's public success. And every time you do that, you feel less. Not because you are behind, but because comparison is a game that has been designed to make you lose. Long-term growth requires a completely different measuring stick, and that is comparing yourself to who you were yesterday, comparing yourself to your past self. So the only questions that are worth asking are these. Am I kinder to myself than what I was 6 months ago? Am I more honest with myself than what I was a year back? Am I able to recover from setbacks faster than what I used to? And if the answer to any of these questions is yes, then you are growing. Not compared to somebody else, but compared to yourself. Because that is the only growth that is real. That is the only growth that lasts. Now, before I end today's video, I want to come back to my own story for a moment. When I was going through the darkest period of my life, when our savings was zero, the financial condition was very bad, my husband was going through a very bad phase mentally, emotionally, physically, I was barely able to stand, I was deep in depression, and everything felt impossible. I made a decision. Not a big dramatic decision, but a quiet one. I will do whatever it takes to bring our lives back. And that one decision that I made in the darkest moment of my life, without any certainty about it working out, that was the beginning of everything that came after. I sold my jewelry, I sold my car, I went back to learning. I started rebuilding my life again, from zero, from scratch. Not because I was motivated, not because I was ready, but because I had decided. That is what self-leadership is. Deciding before you are ready. A decision which is made before you feel ready, before you feel motivated. That is self-leadership. A decision that you then honor one day at a time. So, I want to leave you with this. You don't have to become a different person to lead yourself. You don't have to become stronger, braver, or more ready. All you need to do is make one honest decision and then keep it quietly. On days it feels easy, and especially on days it doesn't feel easy. That is the whole secret. That is how ordinary people create extraordinary lives. Not in big moments, big dramatic moments, but in small, consistent, honest moments. You already have everything that you need. Now just lead.